Over the past few years, Wizards has been printing more once per turn effects on cards, and this was brought up again when Dana Roach from EDH Recast tweeted about it a few days ago. I'm a little late on this one, but I just want to point out that once per turn is a skill tester, and it is a good thing in Magic game design. Now, other games, I don't know. It sounds like people had different opinions related to Yu-Gi-Oh! But in Magic, once per turn makes the player choose decisions. You have to make a decision. You can't just infinitely have as much value as you want. You have to play the game. And I know it feels it feels hard. It's difficult to go from unlimited activations to once per turn, but there are ways around that, and it'll make you a better player and a better deck builder in the long run. So as you can see here, we have the once per turn cards that are commanders. And actually, this is just EDH Rec, sorted by EDH Rec on Scryfall. I always sort by EDH Rec, by the way, because I play commander, so that's just the most efficient way to find cards most of the time. So yeah, only once each turn. You have Welcoming Vampire, Morbid Opportunist, whole bunch of cards down the list. And what these do is that they force you to spread out your effects a little bit and to choose wisely when you play cards. So Welcoming Vampire, you can trigger it once per turn, so you might want to play more flash creatures in your deck. Morbid Opportunist, maybe have a sacrifice outlet that's like a Phyrexian Altar. You do it once on each person's turn. You're still drawing 4 cards per cycle, but it's not infinite cards a cycle. A counterexample to this would be a card like Grave Pact. Whoops, if I can type that. I should have had this pulled up already, but Grave Pact. So whenever a creature you control dies, each other player sacrifices a creature. This card is egregious, in my opinion, and I've said that word a lot, but like this, an effect like this should be once per turn. This is way too backbreaking and suffocating for creature decks in Commander. And, should it be banned? I mean, maybe not, but it's not a fun card. To me, it's very salt-inducing. I don't know where it is on the salt scale on EDH Rec, but the point is that if this were once per turn, it would not be so bad. So you could do it 4 times around the table if you're playing a 4-player game, and it would be less oppressive. Oppressive, that's the right word I was looking for. So, and same thing with Dictative Erebos. But this is an example of old Magic design, which is from 10th edition, actually originally from what, Tempest? No, Stronghold. So this is old Magic design. And back then, it was fine. This is a casual card. I don't even know how much it was played and constructed. But now we have Commander. People are doing crazy stuff in multiplayer. And if everybody's able to have unbound abilities on every single card they have, then it just becomes a game of solitaire at a certain point. Or it could. Or you're forced to play half your deck is removal spells. And, I know CEDH deals with this more than regular Battlecruiser Magic, Battlecruiser Commander, but it's just healthier for the game if you can only do things a limited amount of times, but still be powerful. So, like the reason that another reason I like once per turn is that it allows you to have stronger effects. So, for example, Jin Gitaxias, like you get copies of spells. And it only triggers once per turn, but if it didn't trigger once per turn, they'd either have to cost the card at a lot more mana, or they'd have to reduce the effect somehow. So that's one example. Lasheel, you draw a card. So if Lasheel was not once per turn, you draw your whole deck. You just make a bunch of tokens and draw your whole deck, and it'd be like, oh, okay, well, that was fun. Not really. But this is like, okay, you get an engine, you get it going. Similar with Chainer, you could dump your whole hand, and it's just more fun to do it, to have a challenge for yourself. Magda, this one actually has both abilities that people are upset about. Activate only as a sorcery. People get upset about that. and also tapped treasure tokens. Although that might be a separate video, but the tapped treasure is a good thing, another good thing in my opinion. But Magda is like, this is like the quintessential modern Magic design, or current Magic design. Modern's a format, but like this is what I like to see on cards, because you're committing a crime, you're creating a tapped treasure. You get it once per turn, but you can do it each turn. You can do it at instant speed on other people's turns. And you can sack 3 treasures, make a token as a sorcery. That way you can't flash in blockers. Arguably, that could have been an instant, but I don't know. That'd be pretty powerful on a 2-mana commander. Keep in mind, this thing costs 2 mana, so I think it's perfectly fair. There are ways around the once per turn. For example, we have Rumor Gatherer. So this is a very elegant design where you have a trigger. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. If this is the second time the ability has resolved, draw a card instead. So you scry 1, then you draw a card, then you scry 1 for the next, any number of creatures that turn. So if you're making a whole bunch of tokens, you scry, n-1, and then that -1 is going to be the draw. So this is a really good design. I like this. I wish they would do more of this type of design. It's a little bit wordy, but I think it works pretty well. This is activate only as a sorcery. That's almost a separate topic too. The once per turn is a little bit similar to tap effects, which we've always had on creatures. Jaxus is a good example of this. Shigeki. Let's see. I actually like Cleaver Scob. This one's good because you pay mana, you tap, and you sack something else. You get a very powerful effect where you create 2 tokens that are copies of the sacrificed creature. And this is, it's like the split in half. Something in half. I can never remember the name of that card. Oh, saw in half. You're essentially getting a saw in half effect on a creature that you can repeat once per turn cycle. I mean, assuming you don't have untapped shenanigans. But if you build in untapped shenanigans, you're able to untap Cleaver Scob and pay another 3 mana and do the thing again. You can keep doing it. And you can even sack the tokens also. But this is this is card with limitation that encourages creative deck building, creative decision making. If it was not tap, if it was just 3 mana, just do it. Okay, you make infinite mana, you do it, you win. That's not super exciting. Lathril, this is an interesting example because this is one of the most popular commanders on EDHREC in general. I think it's top 10, top 5. It's way up here. Let's see, Lathril, yeah, number 4. But it's limited in a sense in that you have the tap ability and you have the tap 10 elves, although elves can untap themselves. That's kind of a... But my point is that you have a high cost, but also a high reward on this card. So I feel that it's maybe a little bit pushed and maybe a little bit played out at this point, but it kind of proves my point a little bit, where high cost, high reward. I like that a little bit more than very little cost, like no cost. So like Phyrexian Altar or Ashnod's Altar. This is infamous. Everybody knows about this. You see this hit the field. Your options are A, you kill it immediately, or B, you lose the game. And that's just not that binary choice is not very fun in the grand scheme of things, in my opinion. Should it be banned? Probably not, but it's just an example of that. Prosper Tomebound is another problematic card because it's the Pact Boon ability on here is whenever you play a card from exile, you create a treasure token. So it's a land, that's any spell, and these are untapped treasures, and you're doing it as many times as you can each turn. And I feel that this ability should have been limited. Perhaps the treasure should have came in tapped. Like if this was modern design and not was this 2021 when it first came out? I think it says that. Then it would be more of a fair card because Prosper is pretty broken. It's fun for the player playing Prosper, but then everybody else has to watch them spin their wheels for minutes on end, and so that's an issue. Same with Corvold, same with Tulane. So here's where we get to the final example, and I made a little sheet right here. Didn't even title it. I don't have editing on these videos yet. I'm gonna figure that out slowly. But here's where it's really egregious. So modern design, you have Esper Sentinel. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, you draw a card unless they pay X, where it's the Sentinel's power. Okay, that's strong. It's 1 mana to cast this, keep in mind. So it's a very strong card. Everybody knows about it. It's a staple. Then you have Ristic Study. This is the old Esper Sentinel. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1. This card is just, everybody knows about it. It's the best card draw in blue in Commander, period. End of story. You can argue all you want, but that's what it is. Separate video, but this is one of the cards that I would ban if I could. Ristic Study has no limitations. Players, will draw just dozens of cards off of 3 mana spell. Like, this is stronger than Ancestral Recall in a lot of cases, in Commander specifically. Because you're paying 3 mana and you're getting multiples of that many of cards, basically for free, because a lot of players will not pay the 1, and if they do, it still helps you. So, like, this card is egregious. Now, it's an old design, and back when it was designed, it was fine because it was 1v1, and so there was actually a real decision there. Even then, it might have been a little bit. I didn't play Constructed back then, but it was at least defensible in that sense. So yeah, I put a little like generic check mark and X. I didn't even edit out the Adobe stock photo thing. Okay, but here we go. Finally, we have Teysa Opulent Oligarch versus Teysa Orzhov Scion. And the new Teysa is the design, it has the once per turn clause on the bottom. Whenever clue you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, create a 1/1 spirit token. The old Teysa is you can, for no mana, you sacrifice 3 white creatures to exile target creature. And then whenever another black creature controls put into a graveyard from play, put a 1/1 spirit token into play. So, like, both of those abilities are unlimited, period. Like, this design, like, it's obviously a much stronger card than the new Teysa, but in my opinion, it is a much worse design, game design-wise. It does not force the Teysa Orzhov Scion player to make real decisions or real, forgive the pun, but like real sacrifice in their gameplay, in their deck building, in any of that. Teysa Opulent Oligarch, you have to like actually strategize a lot more than the Orzhov Scion. And, again, Orzhov Scion's a very strong card, and, if you want to have a strong deck, you can put it in there. But this is just my point, that the new design, I feel, is more conducive to back and forth gameplay in Commander. So that's all I've got to say about that, and I'll see you guys on the next video.